Welcome back to another episode of D2D Success Stories. Here today with my good friend Matt Monson. Welcome, bro.
Hey, bro. Appreciate the invite. Excited to be here.
Yeah, appreciate you coming in after just flying in from. Did you fly from Houston? Or did you have to drive back to Austin?
No, I drove from Austin to Houston and flew back from Houston. So
Got you. So, all right, let me do like a little preliminary intro, but then we'll go backwards and start your story from the beginning. So, Matt, senior regional manager at Performance Windows, works with me, one of my main guys, main homies. Started with us, 3 years ago?
Yep, 2021.
Cool.
January 2021.
Yeah. Okay, so just 3 years. How old are you now?
25.
Nah, dude, I thought you were 27 or something.
Yeah, I turn 26 next month, but you know how it is.
To me, that's all young, but I thought you were 27, though, at least. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And, I'm not going to put your business out there, but Matt makes good money, 25 years old. So let's go back to kind of the beginning. Talk to us about growing up. You're from here in Utah?
So my dad, I actually was born in Arizona.
Okay.
So North Peak, Arizona, just right by Lake Powell and Page.
Oh, yeah. Was he a cop down there, too?
Yeah, so that's where he started. So he applied to positions all over the nation to be a cop, and he got accepted down there. And so we lived in a trailer park. That was a good time. And the hospital that I was born in had 4 rooms. It was tiny.
Yeah, just as a side note, I'm guessing that he, as a cop, I'm sure he has good cop stories in general, but I bet the Page, Arizona ones are especially funny.
Yeah, there's a lot of alcoholism there due to the dynamic.
Yes.
So he got in more fist fights in the 5 years that he worked there of people attacking him.
Yeah.
So he had to defend himself in those 5 years than the next 20 that he's done. So he's been in West Jordan PD for 20 years too. So
Nice.
But yeah, born there. We moved to Utah. Grew up. I was in Taylorsville for a bit. Then we moved to Kearns. As my dad started making more money, we moved to different places. Then it was West Jordan.
Moved a little more south.
Yeah.
But west of the freeway nonetheless.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I grew up mostly in West Jordan. So attended middle school, high school in West Jordan.
Nice.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did that, and then.
What'd you do in high school? What kind of kid were you?
So, first off, my parents were super, super strict. I remember one time my buddy lived 6 doors down, and my dad said you need to be home for dinner at 5 o'clock, and I got home at 5:02, and I was grounded for 3 weeks. Okay, this is how.
Nice.
And so, yeah.
I always joke about my dad being strict, and he was, spanking us and stuff.
Yeah.
I hesitated on that one, but I think you can still do that, 2024, whatever. But I think you're one of the only friends I have who the strict dad stories exceed mine.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, I love my dad, and I always tell myself,
Dude, I'm down with the strict dad stuff. Everybody I know who's doing well in life had one, so.
Yeah, dude. I always tell myself, if my kids love me as much as I love my dad, then I'm in a good spot. So if that says anything about my dad, I love him. But I feel like it can go one of two ways. If your parents are super, super strict, you're either going to go off the deep end and be no, I'm going to take my own path. I was on the other end of that spectrum where I was I just wanted to make my dad proud. So 4.0, graduated in high school, very similar in college. But so my dad, so we'll kind of get into this a little bit. But
Yeah.
part of the reason, my initial motivations to get into work and to get into sales came from the fact that my dad works really, really hard. And so at 14, he's all right, if you want a new pair of shoes, you pay for them. If you want to do sports in school, you pay for it. So at 14, I started to be a janitor. So, it was something simple.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I started working at 14 at the high school. So I would walk from the middle school to the high school after school every day. I'd work until 5, and then I'd go home. And then when I actually started high school, I I actually had this whole thing where I had a big old hip surgery because my hip was hollow. And so I wanted to play contact sports. I love basketball. I wanted to play football. Rugby interests me, lacrosse, all that stuff. But yeah, the orthopedic surgeon said, look, if you get tackled from the right side, you're going to be like done. Like you're going to break your hip.
Dude, I never knew that either. Okay. Yeah, because, for those who are listening, not watching, Matt's like 6'3" and built like a Navy SEAL. I've always wondered why you didn't play. Because you like swam or something, right?
Yeah, so I played water polo for a bit, but what happened was my cousin, she swam for, Katie Smith, she swam for BYU for 4 years, like super awesome. And we went and had lunch with my uncle, my aunt, and her, and she's like, if you can't do these contacts, try swimming. And so I gave it a shot, loved the competitive aspect, and started as a sophomore, swam until I was a senior, and got pretty dang good considering the fact that I was competing against kids that started when they were 5 years old.
Right. Dude, I was good at swimming when I was like 7 and like 10. Like,
nice.
I would like win like the city championships and crap like that.
Let's go.
This is a funny story. And then when I was at Dixie playing football, we would did I tell you this story before?
I don't know.
Yeah, so the Mondays after games where we like that were like hard hitting games, sometimes the coach would be like, guys, we're just gonna go get in the pool.
Let's go.
And we'd swim. And at this point I'm like 290, I'm playing nose tackle, right? And he would just have us do races. And basically, if you win, you don't have to be in any more races. But if you lose, then 5 or 6 go-rounds later, you're back in the pool. And I was the last person in the pool on the football team. Whereas like 10 years prior, I had been good at swimming, so.
Yeah, people don't understand, like swim practice, I loved it. So this was my schedule in high school. I would get up at 5. I would take care of some personal study stuff. I would get to the pool by 5:30. So we did every other day. We did dry land one day and then swim practice. So we'd either lift weights at 5:30 in the morning and run, or we would do water practice where I actually swam every other day from 5:30 to 7. Then I'd go straight to school. And then after school, I would do another 2-hour practice that would go from 3 to 5. And then I'd work. And then after when I started swimming, I became a lifeguard. So then I would work from 5 to 9. Then I'd go home. I'd do homework. I'd get home with homework around 11 or 12. And then I'd get up at 5 and I'd do it all over again. So that was where I learned that like I could push through being tired if I want to perform at a high level and compete and, do something that I love. So that's when I started to learn that, hey, maybe I can do hard things. So I feel like that definitely helped.
Excel, be a winner, et cetera, et cetera. Cool. So high school, all right, hardworking kid, kill it at swimming. You graduate. What do you do first?
So like 6 weeks after graduation, I go and I do a Latter-day Saint mission.
6 weeks, you said?
Yeah, 6 weeks.
Oh, yeah, because the age had changed.
Yeah, so I could go when I was 18.
Okay.
So, yeah, and the MTC I went to actually shut down, but I actually went straight to Colombia. Sometimes they do. I served in Bogota, Colombia, so sometimes they would do like a Utah thing, and then...
Well, that's what I did.
Yeah, so I just went straight out. So, awesome experience. I think the biggest thing I learned from my time there, besides, continuing to develop my faith. But the biggest thing I learned was the importance of having a vision, creating goals, and then formulating plans to accomplish those goals. I will use that forever. And I didn't understand that concept at least that well prior to the mission, but like during the mission, after the mission, that's like who I am. I'm a planner now.
Dude, I think so many people out there, they just, they have goals. They may even have goals and work hard, but it's just like, I set a goal. I have this thing in my brain. I just repeat to myself, like, whatever it is, $1 million. So, and then they think it's just like, so I'm just going to repeat $1 million in my head as I go knock doors. It's like, well, kind of maybe, but also it's like how, and you got to get specific. And there's this whole in between that people don't know how to conceptualize.
Yeah, you have to break it down. Like, if you have a goal, you can't just be like, if I think about it enough, it'll just happen. You have to break it down and say, okay, what's that going to take? How do I have to develop myself? What situation do I have to put myself into to even make that possible? And so like, even like longer goals, 5-year goal, 1-year goal, monthly goals. Honestly, I don't go down to monthly goals just because I like annual goals.
Yeah.
So I can work towards something consistently. But it also comes down to like, people say they have goals, but they don't really want it. I think they just want to have goals.
Well, and they sometimes they get a little dopamine rush, and especially they get like attaboys from people when they make their goal. They say the words. Somebody says, "Wow, man, that's awesome," and that was actually what they were seeking.
Or the guy that's like, he has a goal so we can tell other people about it, but not to like actually hit it, which I think that kind of tarnishes like goals in general. If you assume, oh yeah, this guy tells me about all the stuff that he was going to do, but like if you never see someone like follow through with it, then you learn, oh, that's what a goal is to me. It's just a pipe dream. It's something that, you think about, but it's never going to happen. And that's not super efficient.
Just as a side note, while we're talking about this, everybody's got their different concept of like what a goal is, right? You've heard all the different saying, and I feel like you'll hear a million versions of it on a LDS mission, by the way. So you hear some people be like, oh, well, shoot for the moon. If you miss, you hit the stars. Yeah. Or whereas other people are like, oh, it's a firm commitment. You got to hit it no matter what, which you notice those two things I just said are very different than one another. So anyway, what do you think? What's your take?
My take, maybe different things work for different people, but like, I'm an extremist. I'm either not in it at all, or like
a political extremist, like blow something up.
Yeah, well, what I mean by that, what I mean by that is like when I have a goal, the way for it to like continue to be in my brain and me not just forget about it, it's like life or death. It's not like that, but I have to play games with myself. So like my income goal annually, like what it is this year, I literally think about it every single day, and I ask myself, what can I do to hit that, and what changes do I need to make, and who do I need to help and whatnot, because if I don't, the world's going to end. Now, maybe that's putting a little bit of pressure. It can backfire a little bit, but it's just the way that...
So definitely more of a commitment, like
I'm going to hit a goal if I set a goal.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I think kind of goes back to this like motivation versus discipline conversation everybody's always having recently. I'm a big discipline guy, dude. It's like, on a given day, if you get jazzed up and you're like, let's see how much I can do. I do love that. That's great. But hitting my number every day, even on the days I don't feel like it, to me is much more powerful.
Yeah. It's the other thing that we talk about. Yeah. Motivation versus discipline, but also it's like, let's talk about motivation for a second. Like motivation, it's either like internal factors or like external factors. And so a lot of people, and especially like in door-to-door, like when I'm talking to a new rep and they say that they're struggling, typically it's because they're focusing on stuff that's out of their control versus like what's in their control. Even though all the gurus and a majority of like the self-help books are like focus on what you can control, you can actually control external factors more than people think. What do I mean by that? You can control like how rested you are by getting to bed on time. You can control who you spend time with, who you're talking to, who you ask your questions to, like where you're working. You can choose all of those things, and that affects all the external stuff, which will actually like motivate you. So like external things can be used.
So sometimes people are messing up by even claiming it's external. It's like, no, let's internalize that one. Let's redefine that as internal.
Yeah.
Make it your problem.
Yeah. I feel like the other thing with motivation is like if you believe something is possible, then it makes sense to be motivated that you can do it. But when you don't believe it's possible, then obviously there's not going to be the motivation there. So we all heard the thing, like you become the person that, like the 5 people you surround yourself with, you become a person like unto them, right?
Yeah.
And so some people are like, well, everyone has challenges. Everyone has different circumstances. Some people's daddies have money. Some people don't. But even though each of us are born in a different place, went to school in a different place, have different opportunities, you can, I think that's one of the biggest things that like got me to the position where I am, is surrounding myself with people like you, people like Kyle. But another thing is like my parents, they don't understand. They understand how to work extremely hard, but the amount of money that we're talking about that can be made, it's not something they understand. And so I can talk to them about it, but instead of only being with the people like my family or my friends that I grew up with in high school that are doing different things that, you know, they're happy making their $80,000 a year, I realized that I can use books, I can use podcasts, and if that's always in my ear as I'm traveling, that becomes one of the people that I spend so much of my time with, so I can become like those people. And so almost subconsciously, you start to believe all these things because the people you spend the most time with are the people accomplishing those, even if you don't know them personally. So that's part of the reason why, you know, I listen to, you know, podcasts like yours, podcasts in general, door-to-door podcasts, and a lot of just like psychology and mindset stuff and like how to maintain motivation, and business books on how to make a lot of money. A lot of that stuff is, you can become a person like that if you're consuming that stuff all the time.
Yeah, you got to swim in it. So, love that. So, you go on your mission, you crushed it.
Yeah, I did decent.
And then you come back, and what happens next?
So I come home, and my mom's excited to be back, and she wants me to stay at home until I go up to school. I went to school at Rexburg, and I don't know. I didn't want to be. Yeah,
You did?
Yeah, I did. I got my associate's degree up there. So
okay, but when I met you, you were going to like UVU or something. Yeah. Okay, that's why I was confused.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah.
So my mom's like, "Yeah, come stay home. School starts in a couple of months," and I was home for like 4 days, and I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Gotta leave.
Yeah, gotta leave. So I actually got a job building flash flood dams down in Price. So I learned how to drive a rock truck. I was, learning how to operate heavy equipment, and
it's kind of an adventure.
Yeah, it was crazy. We worked. I stayed at a different place.
Did you, just as a side note, did you work with a bunch of degenerates?
Yes, absolutely.
Was that kind of interesting? Right after your mission?
To be honest, I'll bring up my dad a lot, because my dad was the type of person that taught me, like, you love people. Like, a lot of the culture in Utah is like, sometimes it can be really judgmental. Yeah. But since my dad was constantly surrounded by the worst of like people, he also taught me how to like appreciate people that have like different beliefs and different morals. So like they tease me.
It's one of the cool things about our business, dude. It's somewhat blue collar, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so anyway, I didn't know I was going to learn how to, like, if you've ever seen like the 6-wheel rock trucks that like the wheels are like 6 feet tall, that's the stuff that I was driving. So I did that for a summer, went up to school, and when I actually first so there's all the stuff. When I left on my mission, I thought I was going to go and be a pilot. I actually I did some courses through a community college in high school. Okay. And I did my ground school, and I was like, I love flying. That's my passion. That's what I want to do. Yeah. When I was on my mission, I got this thought like, do I really want to be away from my family? Like, I don't know. I started getting wish-washy about it. And so then I was like, you know what? When I got my hip surgery and I had to do all that stuff, I had to go through PT. That was kind of chill. You know, medicine is cool. I'll make good money. I'll do that. So I go up to school thinking I'm going to go be a physical therapist. And it was kind of crazy. I do a year of school. I find my wife. We get married. Like, I met her at the beginning of that school year. We got married a year later.
There you go.
So that was great. But then we come back to school the following year, and I just so happened to run into this kid that I sit down, and first day, he's like, dude, I love planes. And I was like, really? Cool. So
Me too. You're my best friend.
Yeah.
Now.
All of a sudden we were friends and it was crazy. So me and this kid and one other kid that overheard us talking were like, you know what we should do? Like within one day, I flipped the switch. And I was like, Andrea, I know I told your dad when I was going to marry you that I was going to be a doctor. Just kidding. I'm going back to being a pilot. This is what I really want to do. And so within one day, I change all of my classes, and I make a plan with these guys, because just like medical school, if you want to be a pilot and you don't want to go through the military, you've got to get, $120,000, $150,000 in debt, building up your hours and getting all your certifications and all this stuff.
Yep.
And so if you go to a private school, so I was like, you know what? I'm scared of debt. My dad made me fear money growing up, and he was always working. And so I was like, I don't know if I can do that. So we made a plan that the three of us were going to buy a plane. We were going to do our ground school by ourselves, and we were going to hobble our way to the cheap route to getting to be a pilot. But it was still going to cost me $40K. So right. I was like, I still don't want to get in debt. How do I make $40K? And so that's actually how I got into my first door knocking gig was, I had some people at BYU try to do the whole Amway thing. So they sent me some sales books, said, hey, you should read these and then see if you want to get into network marketing and this, that, and the other. And so that was my first exposure. Like, that's not for me. I don't really want to sell to my family. Like, if my family wants to come sell with me, that's cool, but I don't want to be selling them. So what happened was I was like, okay, you can make money in sales. And I heard someone mention pest control. And so I started doing the rounds. So I met with,
trying to figure out, did you consider other products too, or mostly pest control?
To be honest, pest control was just the most common in Rexburg. So,
well, what year is this?
This was 2019.
Oh, yeah. That's not long ago.
Yeah. No, not at all.
I feel like people kind of quit selling alarms in 2015, 2016.
Yeah. It was.
See, because when I was about that age, it was alarms or pest control. You had to decide. Or satellite and stuff even.
There was 6 pest control offices within a quarter mile. In Rexburg, just recruiting everyone super heavily. So I met with a couple. I ended up signing with GreenX, and I was with the Hart brothers, Landon and Dallin. Yeah. And worked with Ben a little bit too. Yeah. And John that you just had on, he was higher up at that the chain point. From you. Yeah. He was higher up at that point. But it was kind of funny because I needed this. I wasn't thinking about sales at all. All I was thinking about is, how can I make $40K to not get in debt so I can buy this plane so that I can go chase what I thought was my real dream, right? And so...
Dude, just before we move on, I remember the summer I went out and sold pest control. There was this moment in the first meeting where we went around the room and everybody had to say what they were there for that summer, their why, and earning money. I'm just imagining you being like, I have to do this so I can buy a plane.
And that's what it was.
Yeah.
And people are like, what? You can buy a plane when you're this? Anyway, so that being said, it was kind of funny when I was recruited. Yeah. I didn't realize this at the time, but they recruited me in a way that I thought was really interesting. I was like, hey, I want a lot of money. And they're like, cool, well, why would you be good at this? And they got me to start selling myself. Well, I was leadership like this and on the mission, and I was, the captain of my team in school, and no one works harder than me. And this whole time I look back and I'm like, I was convincing myself through questions they were asking me of why I would be good for them. I didn't realize it was them getting me in. So to be honest, decent way of recruiting. It got me hyped. I was like, man, I'm going to kill it. So my confidence went up, and I didn't have to do much, really.
Yeah, you put that energy out there. You got to go back it up now.
Yeah, exactly. So went out my first summer. To be honest, I wasn't super skilled, but I was just like, I'm going to try and work harder than anyone else. And I had a goal that I wanted to do 500 accounts because that was what a rookie had done the previous year. And I was like, no, I want to do that. And you know what? I did about half that, but I still did decent. I did 230 accounts.
That's good money, dude. Yeah. What'd you make? 50 G's, 45 G's or something?
So when I was pitching them, how good I was. I like bargains to get the best deal I could. So that ended up I took home like 45 G's, 50 G's.
Yeah. That's good money.
Yeah. So I did that. I had the money and some that I needed. So I was super hyped to do this whole like aviation plane venture.
So let's talk about that summer before we move on a little.
Cool.
Did you start making sales, or did you have like a rookie transition?
So I took pre-season training so seriously. Like I'd watch all the videos and I'd do all that stuff that like they dropped me off my first day. No shadowing, no nothing. They said, good luck. And like I sold the second guy I talked to.
Really?
Yeah.
See, dude, I did nothing the summer I sold pest control. I did 0 in the preseason and went out the first couple days not knowing what I was supposed to say. And
that's crazy.
I just did it, dude.
see, that's impressive because it wasn't super intuitive for me. I was watching John's videos, Ben's videos, the Hart Brothers videos, seeing that they had like pitches of them doing stuff. And so like I tried to see who I was closest to and try to mirror that the best I could. And
right.
And yeah, so I sold 4 accounts my first day doing pests. And then, I did okay. I was a little bit of a head case. I think I could have done more. But at the end of the day, I learned how to sales grind, and then like the grinding I did previously, it's different because before it was all like physical, pushing past being tired, but
just
this was
hours too.
And the hours too, yeah. And this was more, I need to be mentally in tune and like socially in tune with every single person I talk to. And
it's like we always preach to our guys now. It's like, hey, I need 50 conversations from you, but I need all of them fully engaged.
And, a lot of us sales guys, like, attention span isn't the strongest.
Yeah.
And so it really exhausted me. But then it's like a muscle, the more you do it, the stronger you get, the longer you can do it, the better you are.
Yeah. So you go out and just plow through doors, I imagine. Because I remember when you started working with us, which was after that summer, you worked really hard. You pushed really hard on the doors. My calls from angry homeowners quadrupled, and it was
just by me.
I realized 3 months later that it was you. I do remember that your body language was like erratic. It was everywhere.
It was intense, yeah.
But you ran through doors like.
Yeah, my understanding from pest, I didn't gain too much finesse. I just learned how to drop my shoulder and just like charge forward.
Right.
And it can work that way, but I'd say if you have that same energy, but you can develop the finesse, you can be way more efficient.
Of course, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to teach hard work, man. Hard to teach hard work. We try, but it also just helps if you're that guy. So, okay. Was that like shortly before I met you? Yeah, because you started working with us in a winter, and pest control was the summer before that.
Yeah. So what I was doing was, I sold that summer. I went to school, and then COVID started blowing up real bad, and then I got kicked. Well, school got shut down, so I transferred to UVU. So I was going to go back and do summer sales again. In the meantime, because there's this whole thing that happened. We bought the plane. I flew out to California. We got that. We did all this stuff. But then when I was starting to I should have done my due diligence beforehand. But I had the plane, doing all this stuff, and I failed my medical.
Yeah.
So then they're like, all right, we need to put this on review. So I was like, you know what? While it's on review, I made good money. I might as well sell again.
Are you
one more summer.
You colorblind or something?
Because of my ADHD, I took medication in college, and I actually only took it once. It was like the.
But you have to say it to be truthful.
Yeah. So I probably could have like said no, because it was like literally one pill one time. But I tell you what, that was like the movie Unlimited, where like I went from like Limitless. That's right. So I went from like 9 a.m. to like 3 a.m. the next day, like just like on God mode, doing everything I possibly could. That's what it felt like. What sketched me out was I couldn't sleep. It didn't, maybe it was too high, but whatever. Anyway, long story short, I was like, okay, I'm not taking that anymore because it kind of scared me. I was like, oh, I could get on this forever real fast.
You know me, I got the ADHD too, and I've always been scared of the medicine. I self-medicate with way too many energy drinks.
yeah, a couple different ways to do it. But anyway, so I told the truth to the guy. He said, no, you need to prove that you don't need that. I'm like, dude, I don't need it. I haven't been on it for like 2 years, like chill out. But so I had to go through. So in the meantime, that's when I was like, I might as well sell. It actually took 8 months for the government to get back to actually approve it. At that point, I was too far into this for me to like turn back. So I actually started recruiting for Green X, which is I sold my first summer to go at the second summer. And then funny enough, I knew this kid who knew a friend of a friend that had tried to recruit me from pest control and to go to do pest control with him. I said no. And then as I was making my rounds, talking to everyone, trying to build up my team, I hit him up, said, hey, come knock and do pest control with me. I killed it. And he was like, nah, I found a different gig. I can be in Utah year round. I'm selling. I'm crushing it. And I was...
Okay, so obviously I know that this is Zach.
Yes.
Zach had previously tried to recruit you to do pest control with him?
Yeah, he recruited me to do pest control, and I said no.
Okay. And then you flipped the Uno reverse. You were going to recruit him for pest control.
To come work for me. Yeah.
And from what I understand, you did do better than him at pest control. So if somebody was going to, if somebody was going to work for somebody, maybe that was the more natural.
Yeah. So then when he told me about this, the Windows gig, I was like, it sounds too good to be true, and maybe it's not, but maybe I didn't know about his pest control experience, so I assumed maybe you're just way better of a salesman. Maybe I can't do that, so I'm just gonna. No, it's not. I'm not gonna do it. Yeah. So then what happened is I was thinking. I got to thinking about what summer sales meant, and driving out there. The two biggest things is he said I could sell year round, which I really like. Which Pest is starting to do that a little bit, but at that time they were only doing summers, right? Yeah. And the other thing is he said I could stay there year round, and what else did he say?
Stay in Utah?
Yeah, I could stay in Utah.
Well, and you're a newlywed at this point. You're probably thinking a little harder about those pest control days. Well, and it was January. What else were you doing?
Yeah, so I was like, you know what? So this is what happened. So I had my team. It was only like 4 guys. I wasn't doing super hot recruiting at that point quite yet.
Right.
But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try this out before my pest control season. If it ends up being something that I do good at, maybe I'll stick around. But if I flop, then I know I can at least make 50 G's doing pest control. So I'll just do that again. So that's when I sat down, and that's when we had that whole thing where I grilled you a bunch, making sure that I felt good about everything. We had that whole experience there. And
classic.
Yeah, that was good. You thought I was crazy. Kyle did too, and that's cool. But yeah, man. So then I started doing windows first time, doing like a setter closer thing, and I remember my first couple of days, I had a deal my second day, and then on my third day, I broke the company contract record.
Yeah. It was like 27 G's or something.
Yeah.
Granted, we sell that all the time now, but contract sizes were different then.
Yeah.
Biggest deal we'd ever seen.
Yeah. So I got a little attaboy from Kyle, the other owner, and I was like, this is cool. But because I had success so fast, and I had success fast at least early in pest, I was like, it's just me. I'm the swaggiest guy. It's not the system. It's not the product. I'm just good at selling. Mm-hmm. And the doors made me humble. And I went, 2.5, 3 weeks without a single sale. And at
that point, that long, wasn't it? Yeah, I forgot that.
And at that point, I was so stubborn. I was like, screw this. I'm definitely going to quit once I figure this out.
Once I figure this out.
Yeah, because I didn't want to in my mind, I was like, I don't want to be a loser. So if I'm going to quit something, I have to quit it because I'm too good for it, not because it's too good for me.
Person could call it prideful or whatever, but there's kind of like some integrity there too, because what a lot of guys will do is they'll quit and then they'll kind of tell lies on their way out the door. They'll say, well, you can't sell there. That job doesn't work. The product sucks.
Yeah.
something.
Going back to external stuff as opposed to like, controlling your externals and, focusing on internal stuff as well. So then what happened was at this time, granted, okay, I was doing 18 credits. I was, working full time with you guys, but I was waiting to hear back from the FAA of whether I could pass this medical or not. So there's a lot of stuff going on. But so at the beginning, I did okay my first month. The biggest thing though, and I think this is super important, the culture was so good that like I didn't want to be on the bottom rung of the totem pole, and everyone else was killing it. So I was like, man, this is so easy. Why I need to? That was another reason probably why I stayed, because people were doing so well. I was like, what are they doing that I'm not doing? I can figure it out. And so that culture was huge. And then there's qualifications to become a closer. And then after I went through that 2-week dry period, I never didn't sell again, and I qualified in a couple of months to close. And
what was the nature of your slump again, and how did we fix it?
To
Were
be
you
honest,
off script or something?
I was winging it. I was selling like pest control, and they don't you can't pretend like you're going to close the whole, because pest control, you go from start to close.
Yeah.
And then so I was trying to overqualify, get off script, sell purely on rapport and not off of like.
Which, pest control's great, but that it wasn't our process.
It's just a different system,
right?
And
you weren't following the process of what we do.
Yeah. So I was being a little bit, again, prideful, not listening to what my leaders had said. And I remember I was so frustrated because I tried to figure it out that said, hey, look, you just need to fix this, this, and this, which was like, get back on script, have a faith that if you do this, maybe it was just a confidence thing too, because they're like, Kyle, the one other owner of the company, he's really good at saying, hey, if you fix this one thing, it'll be a domino effect and it'll fix everything. And so he told me, fix the script and you'll be perfect. And maybe the confidence in combination with the script of being like, no, I can do this, was what turned it around for me.
That's the trick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, maybe you were off script and you were unconfident in some kind of way, but you went out thinking that it was just the script and you were fixed on that. So therefore you were also confident.
Yeah. And confidence sells, right?
Yeah.
So, and then qualified as closer. A massive turning point for me. I had 2 big turning points selling. And the first one was because I'd killed it for a couple of months, I got that offer to say, hey, we're expanding the company. We're growing a lot. Go help out in Kaysville. And then, if you crush it, you can go open Boise. Mm-hmm. And I remember... and I'm not taboo about numbers at all. I don't know if you're cool with me sharing this.
I'm even less taboo than you. I just always let the other person start saying numbers first. Cool.
So I was literally 3 or 3.5 months into working at the Windows gig, and I broke the record for the most revenue closed by a closer ever in the company. Mm-hmm. And that was because my recruiting got a lot better. And I think part of that because I had a lot of belief in what it was that we were doing. So I was recruiting, closing for my guys, self-genning. Jake Richards, he's one of the OGs in our company. Yeah. I just recruited him. He was killing it. Yeah. And I made like $43,000 that month. Yeah. And we were sitting in a parking lot. We just got done knocking. And I told him, like, look, dude, I splurge. I'm a pretty, I don't spend a whole lot of money. And it wasn't even crazy. But I bought like a brand new sports out Honda Accord in cash, and I told him, like, look, dude, this is what I just did. And we were hyping each other out. We never seen this before. This was impossible. My parents and my family had never purchased like a new vehicle ever. Like, it was always used stuff. And after I had that conversation about how hype it was, I did a little bit of thinking, and again, taking 18 credits, doing this, wanting to get into aviation. And in aviation, how it works is, when you first start flying, you have to go through a probationary period where they're like constantly micromanaging you, and your pay is like $30,000 your first year, even though you're worth a lot more, because they're like, hey, if you screw up in your first year, we don't want to put you in charge of 200 passengers, right? And so, but even at the apex of the earning of a pilot after 20 years, they're making
300 or 400 G's.
Yeah, 350. And I was like, holy crap. I'm 2-3 months into this. I just made more than I'm going to ever make in a month, even if I worked and developed a career for, 20 years. And then I was like, I am so excited to be done with school so I can focus on the stuff that makes me money. And the only reason I was going to school to begin with was to do something that would allow me to make money. And so I was like, all right, well, that settles that.
Yeah.
So I had, I don't know, like 10 or 11 credits left. And I was like, screw it. So then I dropped out. And then we went all in with the sales thing. So.
Did you get kickback on that one from anybody?
Initially, yes.
Yeah.
My parents were like, you just put so much time and effort and money into it. What are you doing? And I won't name names, but there was even an individual in my family that wrote me a letter and told me through a different family how silly I was and that I wasn't going to be successful, essentially, and that it was just a short-term thing and you're throwing your life away. Like, people were like, it was dramatic. I was like...
Throwing your life away.
I was like, you realize that the money that we're making here, and the thing too is like, we're helping other people out. We're taking care of our customers. Like, everything I'm doing, like, yeah, you could make 40 grand doing other things, but being a doctor after going to school for 8 years or selling drugs, like, so.
Yep. There's not many options, man. Not the exact same way. It's like I was talking about with one of my earlier guests. He was like, I don't know where else you can make this kind of money in your 20s, like maybe in the NBA. I was like, yeah, man, NBA or summer sales.
Yeah.
That's what we got.
Yeah. So that was a turning point for me. I was like, you know what? I don't need school to be successful. I can develop skills that will help me become the type of person that no matter what happens, I can make money. And so that's a
pretty decisive decision, man, with 10 credits left. I mean, you're well aware of my opinion on dropping out of school to sell, but even I may have been able to talk myself into closing out 10 credits.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple of guys, and don't get me wrong, I support going to school. I think if you're going to school, you should be going to school because it's going to, without school, you couldn't hit the goals that you have.
Right.
So if it's a step you have to take it, but it's not the only path towards success. And so, again, even though I respect school, it's almost like a badge of honor that, like, I didn't graduate and I'm still, like...
Doing fine.
Yep.
Doing fine. So, all right, you start closing. Yeah, like you mentioned, you broke that monthly revenue record for a closer. That was big time. Was that your first full month closing?
First full month, yep.
Yeah, okay. And then what happened next?
Then I went up to Kaysville to help open our second Utah office, and I closed. And it got to the point where the guy he's just like, just run the meetings. So I started to like helping all the knockers and taking like a more of a leadership role in addition to closing. And there was some good competition there between Zach, my recruiter, and myself to see who's going to get the most revenue every month. And that was a lot of fun. And then, after being there for a handful of months, we made the trek to Boise and opened up the office.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, we pretty much just heaped responsibility on you there in the beginning because you came in ready to accept it. You know what I mean? There's something to be said for that. So Boise, what month was that? Do you remember? It's like late 21?
We opened Boise in October of 21.
Yeah.
And I started in January. So, yeah.
Cool. How was that? Punch you in the face? Regrets?
No. It's one of those things where hard things teach you like the best lessons.
Yeah.
I learned so much about myself, about how to lead. There was a whole dynamic. When I went up there, it was me, my wife, who I recruited, who was actually doing decent.
Very good.
Yeah. And one other kid that actually came from California and had kind of bounced around a couple of offices. And he was like, what the heck? I'll go to Boise. So it was just the three of us. And I remember feeling a lot of pressure to like build it as fast as possible because besides Kaysville, the other market that had opened was Phoenix.
Yeah.
And they were killing it. And so I was like, if they can kill it right out the gate, I can kill it right out the gate.
That was a tough comparison because the people who went to Phoenix initially, a few of them were from there.
Yeah, including my recruit,
Yes.
Jake, who was killer.
Yeah. Super tied in down there, knows everybody. So they recruited much more easily than you did.
Yeah, I tell you what, like, I mean, we laugh about this, but like, we weren't doing, Indeed stuff at that point. It was all organic recruiting. And I got to the point where I was like trying to meet people. I was going to activities. I was going to the gym. I was trying to recruit. And I got to the point where I'd like knock condos. I'd be like, hey, so I'd like knock for work to sell. And then when I wasn't selling, I'd like knock on houses and say, hey, I work for this company. We knock door to door. We're looking for people to work. This is about how much you can make. Is there anyone at home that's looking for a job?
Nice, dude.
Yeah. And,
how did it work?
It didn't work. I never got, okay. I got a guy later, like knocking doors to sell, but like that never worked. And what I realized was I was still in my mind, like, recruits are money in my pocket, as opposed to like actually being real with people and like wanting to. That was when I started to learn how to recruit. It was, I'm going to meet you first. I'm going to see what you're doing. I'm going to see what you're interested in what your goals are. Get that vibe first, and then nonchalantly say, hey, I have this opportunity. I love it. We're looking for people. If you're ever interested, hit me up. And then I would just be consistently follow up with people and share how much I loved it.
You know something? It's funny, man. In our sales process, we kind of know all of the pain points. We know all of the objections. Like there's only so many things that exist. So because of that, we actually don't have to ask a ton of questions. There may be some door-to-door verticals where people do the question-based selling or whatever, but we don't do that in Windows, right?
Yep.
Every now and then one of our guys will watch some video by some guru talking about asking questions, and then they'll bring it to work and we'll be like, what are you doing? Don't do that. So anyway, like I said, we don't believe in that in our sales process, but I think that recruiting super is question-based selling. So it's different than our sales process, right? Like you have to be able to figure out where they are in their life, match it to some benefit we offer, and really like personalize it.
Yeah, I think people are concerned what your motive is when you reach out to recruit them.
Yeah.
So they're like, is it a purely selfish motive? Or if you take the side of this has done something that's so huge for me, like some of the best recruiters I know are like, sales, door-to-door specifically changed my life. I'm so grateful for it. And I just want to let you know about the opportunity so I can wash my hands of like the
burden.
Yeah, the burden of like letting you down as a friend that I didn't at least give you the opportunity.
Yeah,
right.
Dude.
And
got that evangelical fervor about it. Like, I owe this. This is so wonderful. I owe it to my friends to at least tell them.
Yeah. And so when I started to get more on that thought process, it would just like, I just did it all the time. Whenever someone like, I like my job, it's like all I did. And so when I talked to people about who I was, it came up, and the people that showed interest, I just shared it. And then people that piqued their interest, you give them an invitation. It's like similar to some other stuff that we've done in the past, right? Just give them the invitation.
Yeah. So you did really well at that, at organic recruiting, and this is in an unfamiliar place to you.
Never stepped foot in Boise until I went there to sell.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough, dude. How'd you do? I mean, I've done that. You've done that. I told somebody the other day, I was like, I think that the list of people, at least in our company, who have moved a place and then become really good organic recruiters there is short. It's 3 to 5, I would say. You're one of them. How'd you do it? I mean, we were just talking about it, but like, talk about that some.
Yeah. First things first, you have to have a belief in the system.
Yeah.
You have to continue to be good and like your job.
Yeah.
You can't, there's this thing that people try to pull sometime in sales, like, I'm going to stop selling so I can focus on recruiting now.
That doesn't exist.
That doesn't work, because what are you trying to recruit with? You're like, so I used to be good at this thing that I haven't tried in a while, and it could be good for you, but and then you get out there, and even if you do get that person, now you're all rusty. So you got to stay good at it.
It's always super cringe to me. You see it in a lot of door-to-door where people are like, yeah, I'm not really on the doors much anymore. I really focus on recruiting. Cringe.
Yeah.
I cringe.
Yeah. It's just such a requirement. People that, people respect their leaders when their leaders lead from the front.
Yeah. Well, and you were kind of saying this, but the most powerful pitch is, you should come work for me because I'm really good at this and I'll show you how to do it.
Yeah.
If you haven't been doing it recently, how do you even recruit on that?
Yeah. Yeah. And then caring about the individual, right? And like, it's also, recruiting is just like doors. It's a numbers game. Like, you're going to get people that tell you no. Don't worry about the no's, but you have to invite them. If they say no, great, move on to the next person, and even come back and follow up with the people that did tell you no, just to show them that you care about them, right? So doing that, and then, I would say those are the biggest thing. Continuing to sell, making it a lifestyle of always talking about it, because prior, the only way I knew how to recruit was like, text everyone in my contacts a group message.
The cringe message.
Yeah. So
let me just make a point for you too that you didn't make, but you must have been, being a pretty social guy. I guess. Well, certainly if you're going and knocking to recruit, but sometimes we talk about like, hey guys, how can you recruit more of your friends? And it's like, well, let's go back in time before this moment. Do you have friends?
Yeah.
You've always had friends, so that helps.
Yeah, you can't be a recluse. Like, you have to be I get it. People can say it's difficult for me. I'm on the doors. I'm using my social battery all day. The last thing I want to do is to get out and continue to do that. But like, that's the difference between someone that's going to find short-term or only personal success versus someone that's going to find long-term success through being good at your job, but also helping others be good at it. So you got to put in, a little bit of willpower to, when you get home and all you want to do is sit on your couch, sometimes you got to hit someone up and, ask them how they're doing, or go and meet new people. So it's important.
Right. So you build the Boise office up big.
Yeah. We had some up and downs. I had to find the balance between, I'm a little bit of I'm super detail oriented. Yeah. So in the beginning, I was trying to say like, am I micromanaging? And like, I had to teach people how to figure out their own problems. And that's when the office really took off, because before I said, if you have problems, just come to me. I'll fix it for you. Don't worry about fixing it yourself. And that wasn't the move, because I just got, I was just bombarded constantly fixing other people's problems. And then, it's a classic teaching someone to fish or giving them a fish. What's going to be more long-term? Obviously teaching them how to fish.
Yeah.
So that was super important. And the other thing that helped when we started to like do, a lot higher revenue numbers for the office monthly, is the moment that I decided to like plant myself on performance.
Yeah.
Because I was still like, okay, this is great. I'm going to make great money. I still had the summer sales, bro, mindset of, so some of the guys is like, hey, summer sales a lot of time is used as like, it's a trampoline for you to like jump off and like be pushed forward and, get ahead in life to go do something else. Mm-hmm. And that was my approach for the first like 18 months of like, this is going to be great for me to get into something that I really want.
I hate that, by the way.
Yeah.
Can I just make a little point here? I even see companies recruiting on that, like, hey, you won't always be in door to door, and that's okay. Here we help prepare you for the rest of your life. That sucks. Don't ever work for that company. Nobody listening ever work for that company.
Well, the thing was, and just to back up what you're saying, Levi, my performance as a leader 10x'd when I was like, because how am I supposed to sell? Yeah, come try, put your life on hold, because a lot of people I was talking to, they already had plans, they already had stuff that they wanted, and so I'm like, just put your life on hold so we can make some money for a couple of years and then go back to exactly what you're doing. It's less logical.
Well, and
right?
it's uninspiring. I couldn't get excited about that personally.
Yeah, maybe you could for a month, but it's so short term. You can't live off of that. So I remember we had a conversation and I was like, no, I'm gonna buy in. And then when I said that, my mindset shifted on how do I make the most money in the least amount of time possible to how do I make the most amount of money for as long as possible.
Yeah.
Huge difference there.
Way different. Yeah. Yep. And that difference shows in your work too. That's the thing. That impacts how you view all the situations. So let's jump forward a little bit. You know, you ran the Boise office. You guys were huge. It's still huge. It's still huge after you left, but you made it huge, sustained that for a long time. Now you've stepped into this regional role. How's that been?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's great. So I'm over 5 offices in 4 different states.
Okay.
And I'm working with guys that I know exactly what they're going through because it's what I did in Boise. So I can help them solve a lot of the problems of, hey, how do you work with managing your managers on your team as far as like the closures go? How do you onboard and bring in new knockers? How do you run interviews? But the biggest thing is like helping my guys catch the vision of making more money for more time. And if I can get them to like flip that switch, it's almost like they self-manage and I'm just there to provide value, right? So
yeah, so the wrong practices are ultimately coming from a underlying wrong belief.
Yeah, of trying to escape hard work. It's a very short-term motivator is I want to work really hard to be really successful so I don't have to work hard anymore.
Yeah.
But then
some really hard work is going to be born out of my laziness.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
It kind of contradicts itself. So, yeah. And also, I don't want to be the type of leader that like. Another thing I teach is I, as your leader, should not want you to succeed more than you want to succeed. That doesn't make sense.
No.
Right? You should want to succeed. It should be a competition. Who wants you to succeed more, me or you?
Right.
And so that should be going up all the time. And that works at any level. If you have 2 recruits and you're just starting to build your team, or if you're in office over, 30 guys, or if you're in a position, even higher up, that needs to be and the guys pick up on that so quickly, and loyalty is built by you competing with them that I want you to succeed more than you do, but you're doing that in a way to teach them that they should want to,
I think
be successful more.
I think to an extent it's just about having the right people too. Well, let me ask you your take.
Okay.
Can you say to a guy, you've got to want to succeed more, and have him do it, or is it just kind of one of the get the right people on the bus, the wrong people off? Is it one of those things?
I think so when I'm teaching someone about the doors, I tell them there's 3 different types of homeowners. Yeah. There's the homeowner that doesn't matter if you're the best salesman in the whole world, they're going to tell you to leave. There's the person that it doesn't matter if you talk about anything but what you're selling, they'll still buy.
Yeah.
And there's people that they're on the fence, and only if you do your job well will you find success with them. And I think it's the same way with people that you lead. Yeah. So you have to be able to discern. And you know what? I let them, similar to the tactics that were used to recruit me when I first started knocking, I want them to sell themselves to me of like why they're going to do well. Yeah. And if they can't sell themselves to me of like, hey, this is how hard I'm going to work, this is why I want it, I can only inspire people so much that it'll end up being their decision. But you can. I think some people, it's like, I'll give you a shot, but I'm going to be very clear with you that if you don't fulfill your potential, it's not the right fit for you. And some people will rise to the occasion, and other people will wash themselves out because they're like, you know what, it's actually too much work.
Yep. I think back on times in the past when somebody was super talented, had an opportunity to make incredible money, and we're just like begging them to stay. I'm like, dude. And the first few times around the block, I was ignorant about it. I would beg him to stay. And then like the third or fourth time, I'm like, okay, bye then. Like, I can't do this anymore, bro. I'll replace you, I guess. And it's funny how I thought it'd be the end of the world. And all of a sudden, like, we're all happier. Everybody's happy. And, it's just a testament to you got to work with people who view it the same way you do. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, man. I agree. To be honest, I don't have much more to add other than you can help them prove to you why it works for them. And if they're not willing to do that, then yeah, I think we sell so much of like, this is what you can accomplish. But if there's not, so with our job, it's money, right? You get money out of being successful. But if there's not something for them to do with that money, or there's nothing more they aspire to, then it's not going to work out.
So as we kind of wrap up, if you were talking to, let's not say a brand new rep. If you're talking to a rep who's 6 months or a year in, they're good, they have potential, and they're thinking about kind of building a career in this. What would you say to them?
The first thing that they need to do is to decide that they actually want to do it. I like what John said in the previous podcast. He says, "You grow where you plant." And if they still got shiny object syndrome, and they're like, "I'm going to do this as long as it works for me," but the moment that it becomes difficult, I'm going to do something else. You got to get that 100% out of your head and decide, I am going to be successful here and do what it takes. And that's the first step. If you don't do that, everything's going to be a half effort. You're going to get half the results.
You're going to have your monkey branches set up. Your boats are not burned.
Yes. You got to burn the boats. And when you do that, it's incredible how adaptive you can become. The strongest don't survive. The most intelligent don't survive. The people that adapt the most survive. And if you force yourself, and that's why I'm extreme. I'm like, I'm going to hit these goals, because if there's no way out, then I'll adapt to make it happen.
Right.
So that's the first thing.
Love that. Anything else?
I just appreciate being on with you, and excited to hear what you do on these more podcasts.
Love it, man. I would say, where can our listeners find you on social media? But
well, I'll tell you what. I'm a big organic guy. I do a lot of stuff face to face, but there's quite a bit of stuff about me on Workout Performance. So if you ever want to check that out, take a look.
Workoutperformance.com.
.com, on Instagram. Check it out.
Love it. Thanks for coming on, bro.
Hey, appreciate the invite.